Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're building what I like to call the ultimate engineer's toolkit for hardware communication. If you've ever wondered how the tiny electronic brains inside our devices actually talk to each other to make the magic happen, you are in the exact right place. In fact, right now, there are literally billions of these invisible conversations happening inside your smartphone every single second. We're going to decode the universal languages of electronics by breaking down the three core serial communication protocols: UART, SPI, and I2C. Here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with the language of microcontrollers, move on to UART, the simple chat, hit the high-speed highway with SPI, navigate the busy network of I2C, and finally wrap up with a protocol cheat sheet. Part 1. The language of microcontrollers. The fundamental problem here: a standalone microcontroller just can't function in total isolation. It absolutely needs a way to collaborate. Picture a packed circuit board. It's totally crowded with different chips, right? Sensors, memory modules, displays. A microcontroller sitting right in the middle of all that chaos has to continuously exchange data with external peripherals just to do its job. But here's the catch: these components are usually built by totally different manufacturers. So standardized communication protocols act as that universal language. It's what lets all this diverse hardware seamlessly talk to each other without completely breaking down. So before we look at the specific protocols, let's lock in our baseline. Serial communication. This is simply data sent sequentially, literally one single bit at a time, over a single wire. Now you might be thinking, why not just send a whole bunch of bits all at once over multiple wires? Parallel communication. Well, while parallel is fast over super short distances, serial communication is just so much simpler. It requires way fewer physical pins on our chips, and it's infinitely more reliable when you're communicating over longer distances. Section 2, UART, or as I like to call it, the simple chat. Let's pull the very first tool out of our toolkit. UART stands for Universal Asynchronous Receiver Transmitter. It is absolutely your go-to whenever you need a simple, stripped, point-to-point serial link between exactly two devices. It relies on this beautifully minimal two-wire interface. The transmit, or TX pin, of device A connects directly to the receive, or RX pin, of device B, and vice versa. But pay attention to that word asynchronous. That means there is literally no shared physical clock line between the devices to sync up the bits. Because of that, both devices have to manually agree on a transmission speed beforehand. We call that the baud rate, something like 9600 or 115200 bits per second. Now, because we're essentially flying blind without a clock line, we run into a timing problem. So how do we fix it? Structured data frames. The receiver needs to know exactly when a message starts and when it ends. Otherwise, it's just staring at meaningless electrical noise. So UART bundles the data into highly structured packets to keep everything perfectly synced up. Let's walk through that exact sequence, step by step. First step, the start bit. The line naturally sits high, so to grab the receiver's attention, the sender yanks the line low for 1 bit duration. Boom, we've started. Next comes step 2, the data bits. This is your payload, typically 8 bits containing the actual information. Step 3 is the parity bit. This is a clever but completely optional trick used for basic error checking just to make sure the data is intact. And finally, step 4, the stop bit, or sometimes 2 stop bits. The sender pulls the line back high, which signals the end of the frame and puts the bus back to idle. It's simple, it's effective, and it's incredibly reliable. Moving on to section 3, SPI, the high-speed highway. If UART is a simple walkie-talkie, this next tool completely trades that simplicity for raw speed. SPI is basically the Autobahn of hardware protocols. Its high-speed nature makes it absolutely perfect for peripherals that need to shove massive amounts of data around really quickly. We're talking SD cards, TFT graphical displays, external flash memory, the heavy lifters. SPI operates at speeds of 50 megabits per second or even more. And unlike UART, SPI is a synchronous protocol. That means it uses a dedicated clock line. It's also full duplex, which is a massive game changer. Full duplex just means data is flowing in both directions simultaneously during the exact same clock cycles. To actually pull off speeds like that, SPI uses a strict master-slave architecture. You've got one master device, which is usually your main microcontroller, acting as the maestro of the whole bus. This master generates the dedicated serial clock, or SCLK, to perfectly synchronize the timing of every single bit across the network. The master runs the show, controlling all communication with one or more slave peripherals. Let's break down the physical wiring of this bus. It's typically 4 wires. First, you've got SCLK, that serial clock we just talked about. Second is MOSI, master out slave in, which carries data from the master to the slave. Third is MISO, master in slave out, carrying data simultaneously right back to the master. And finally, we have the SS or CS pin, the chip select. But here's the catch with SPI. It requires one unique physical wire pulled low for every single slave device you want to target. So if you have 5 sensors, you need 5 separate chip select wires. As you can imagine, you might eat up all the pins on your microcontroller pretty fast. Section 4, I2C, the busy network. If SPI is a massive highway with dedicated lanes, I2C is more like a highly efficient office intercom system. This is where I2C really comes into its own. It's heavily optimized for situations where you need to connect multiple peripheral devices. Think environmental sensors, EEPROMs, or those little OLED screens, but you absolutely need to conserve your physical pins and board traces. It is a synchronous, multi-master, multi-slave protocol. The real magic of I2C? Its hardware footprint. Listen to this. No matter how many devices you add to the bus, up to the protocol's theoretical limits anyway, it only ever uses 2 shared wires. That's it. You have SDA, the serial data line, which is bidirectional and handles data moving back and forth, and you have SCL, the serial clock line, generated by the active master to sync everything up. The whole shebang runs on just 2 wires. But wait a second. If every single device shares just one data line, how does the master talk to just one specific sensor? Well, unlike SPI, which relies on physical, dedicated hardware pins to select targets, I2C uses a super efficient software approach. Every slave hardwired to the I2C bus has a unique 7-bit address. So an OLED display might be hard-coded to an address like 0x3c. Before sending any actual data, the master literally calls out this specific address over the bus. Only the slave with the matching address wakes up to respond. Everyone else? They just ignore the chatter. Now, there is one absolutely critical caveat here, and it trips up beginners all the time. I2C uses open drain pins. Basically, this means the chips can pull the lines low, but they physically cannot push them back high. It's kind of like a heavy door that you can push open, but you need a spring to pull it closed again. Because of this, you absolutely must include external pull-up resistors, usually around 4.7 kiloohms, connected to your positive voltage source on both the SDA and SCL lines. Without those pull-up resistors, the bus lines can't return to a high logic level, and your communication will just totally flatline. Section 5, the protocol cheat sheet. We've covered a ton of ground today, so let's bring all 3 of these protocols together and figure out exactly when to use each tool in the real world. Let's synthesize all this. Notice the progression we've made. We started with UART. It's simple, uses just 2 wires, it's asynchronous, strictly point-to-point, and relatively slow at up to about 1 megabit per second, no target selection needed. Then we jump to SPI, 4 or more wires, synchronous clocking, lightning fast at 50 plus megabits per second, supports multiple slaves, but it requires a physical chip select pin for every single one. Finally, we looked at I2C, bringing that wire count all the way back down to just 2 shared lines, with synchronous clocking, moderate speeds up to 3.4 megabits per second, and using that clever 7-bit software addressing. So what does this all mean for your actual designs? Well, here are your definitive, real-world rules of thumb. Choose UART when you need a straightforward, direct, point-to-point link, like for a debugging console or a GPS module. Go with SPI when raw data throughput and speed are absolutely crucial, like when you're writing to an SD card. And pull out I2C when minimizing your wire and pin count is the primary goal, like if you're stringing together 5 different environmental sensors on a tiny, crowded circuit board. To wrap up this explainer, let's put your new mental framework to the test with a quick quiz. Number 1, which protocol requires no clock line? Number 2, how exactly does SPI select a specific slave device? And number 3, what specific resistors are mandatory on an I2C bus? Give those some thought. But more importantly, the next time you tap your smartwatch or start your car, ask yourself, is it a simple chat, a high-speed highway, or a busy network making that magic happen behind the scenes? Until next time, keep building and keep learning.